first of all, Anna, thank you very much to have a little bit of time to talk with us. And I think we can start now with the interview. I wanted to start with the Istanbul Convention, as sets a comprehensive standards to prevent and combat violence against women. Do you think is it effective? What steps should the EU take to make sure it's implemented better among member states and to hold states accountable when these standards are not met?
Yes, for sure, the Istanbul Convention is useful. It's one of the only binding mechanisms that we have to oblige countries to work on combating violence against women. And most European countries have ratified this convention. However, there are 5 countries that haven't yet. So that is problematic. I think one thing we here in the European Parliament and Europe should do is to make sure that those countries also ratify the Istanbul Convention. And then what we have to do is, as parliamentarians, hold the Commission accountable that they talk to countries who do not adhere, for example, who do not have laws on combating violence or what is rape, what is not rape. So we can be strong, because if we do this, then the convention can help to, as you said, to prevent and to combat violence against women.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that maybe continue with this, we can continue with the gender-based violence that is also very connected, as it also remains a pressing issue in Europe. How can the EU policies better protect victims and improve access to services and legal support, and ensure that prevention and protection measures are effectively integrated into national systems?
That's a good question. Well, there's no quick fix in solving gender-based violence. There's many things that we have to do. One of the things is that we have to make sure that people are educated about this topic, and that starts already in schools, making sure that especially boys, because unfortunately it's always men who are the perpetrators of violence, are aware of how do you treat a woman. What does it entail? So what we do here is to make sure that member states know this and that they work on this topic. Then there's a whole part about shelters. I talk regularly to people who have shelters, for example, in Belgium. And what they tell me is that they don't have sufficient places in shelters for women. There's often women who have to wait, so who want to escape a violent relationship but cannot go to a shelter. We in Europe can provide money for member states to, for example, build more shelters. So there's many different ways what we can do. And one thing we should not forget is also focus on online violence. Because you might think, okay, if there's online violence, it does not affect me in the real world. But we see now that there's a clear link. It starts with bullying, then it comes with stalking. And at the end, women do experience actual violence that started with cyber violence.
Indeed, and with the declarations that we have listened these days,
yes.
it's terrible, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wanted to switch now to another topic regarding to climate change, if you don't mind. Saying women are often disproportionately affected by climate change and environmental crisis. In your view, what role should gender equality play in shaping European climate policy, and how can the EU better integrate a gender perspective to ensure that the green transition is also a just transition for women?
Yeah. So if you want to integrate a gender perspective, you have to talk to women. You have to make sure that they are on the table. And that is already the first issue. We see now that if we talk about green policies, climate policies, that it's 30% women, 70% men in average that are at the table. So let's make sure that women are at the table because they bring different perspectives. And then it should be possible for us to have this gender mainstreaming, what we call it, in all policy fields. It was a popular thing to talk about here in the European Parliament, but right now we see a big backlash. So mainly conservative and radical right parties say we don't want gender mainstreaming anymore. They try to take away the word gender from policies, and they also don't want to make money available for these matters. So I think what I will do here is to make sure that gender mainstreaming remains part of our policies and that we make actual money available for projects specifically target women in difficult situations, for example, due to climate change.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we can moving forward with this narrative. Do you believe that the European Union should move beyond traditional approaches by adopting a more feminist and inclusive perspective? Don't you?
Absolutely. And some people get scared of the word feminist, but meaning if you're a feminist, you want equality for all. And right now we see that there is no equality for all, yeah, so this is necessary. Whether we talk about climate policies, agriculture policies, the situation for migrant women, in all these topics we need to have a gender perspective.
Thank you. And we can continue with the following. The fifth, women play a key role in agriculture and rural communities, yet they often face structural inequalities in access to land, funding, and decision making. How can the European Union agricultural policy better support women farmers, especially in the context of climate adaptation and sustainable farming? What policies could help empower women farmers as key actors in climate resilient and sustainable agriculture?
Yeah, this is a topic, women in farming, that people don't often think about, but it's a big issue. I work in the agriculture committee, and I've spoken to many women who told me, look, we're often overlooked in this sector. Right now we see that farmers are transitioned from father to son. So for a woman that wants to start a farm or run a farm, it's very hard for her to get access to land. So we can have policies on how to take over a farm. But what we also see is that women often have farms that are smaller, that are more diverse, don't have, for example, only cows, but they have some cattle, but they also grow vegetables, etc. So we have to make policies that support also smaller farms. And by doing so, we immediately support women. So I say we should not spend money based on hectares. So the bigger your farm, the more money you get. But let's spend money on greening your farm. And this way we target women.